Hello and welcome to our evaluation for our film opening The Wild Winds by Conor Morley,
Liam Lewis
and Robbie Johnston. The first question we will be addressing in our evaluation is: in what ways does our media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? One way we have used a media convention is by presenting our lead character from the very beginning. He starts off in a desolate field, which straight away gives our audience the idea that he's on his own, he's isolated. This also gives him an air of mystery, so no one really knows who he is, why he's there, which gets them thinking. And this then contrasts to what happens later on in the film opening, as he is seen in a cosy, warm home. It's quite a big contrast between the two. It also gives the audience something to think about while watching the beginning of our film.
Yeah. Also, we have used in our opening titles and credits throughout the opening. This is a common media convention used in film openings. Something else we've used is foreshadowing. However, we feel that we've challenged the use of foreshadowing by including it in the actual film opening rather than throughout the film. It kind of helps, portray, like Robbie was saying, the contrast throughout the film, sort of the bad and the good side of what's going on.
In the parts where we've got flashback scenes and foreshadowing, we also use a lot of edits and filters and cuts, mainly to make the scenes look a lot different in comparison to the scenes where it's current time. We also use the lighting to represent our genre, so bright lighting when it's outside to show when it's real, and kind of dark tones when they're inside to show that it is in the past.
Throughout the film opening we also use eerie music, for instance the eerie wind. This links with our title, The Wild Winds. It also helps the audience get an idea that our character is maybe struggling with himself, with something inside of him, maybe something to do with his mind, what he's thinking about. It's also inferred from the wind that the wind isn't actually there, it's in his head, it's not.
One film we took inspiration from was Saw 1, from the Saw series, obviously a very popular psychological thriller series. In the opening of Saw 1, we liked the way they used the darkness to create the eeriness effect, sort of going on to like loneliness and things, and then the single light, which was attached to a key going down the sink. The sound in the background as well, we really liked it. Sort of built up the atmosphere, created a sense of eeriness, again loneliness.
And we wanted to use that in our film opening ourselves, as that's where we got the inspiration from.
Yeah. Later on as well, we liked the idea of foreshadowing, which is why we again decided to take that idea from Saw. We liked how they foreshadowed with the key going down the sink, and that turned out to be the main object in the film.
In our film opening we used long drawn out clips throughout the opening of our film. The inspiration from this was from a psychological thriller called Seven. Throughout Seven, again, it was rarely was there a jump cut, and in the background of the opening trailer of Seven there was some really eerie and prominent music. It caught our attention from the very beginning, and again it was very just impactful. We knew it was there, and that's what we wanted to do with our film opening. We wanted to make sure that the music went really well with the long drawn out clips, and that it would catch the audience's attention from the beginning and keep their attention all the way through to the very end.
In our opening we used
I will stop clicking this because it's getting annoying.
Stop clicking.
We took inspiration. Oh no, okay.
Sorry.
We took inspiration from the film The Shining, which is equally a psychological thriller. We took three main conventions from it, being long shots, its atmosphere, and the loneliness. In terms of the loneliness, the single car driving down the road suggests loneliness in the film, and the use of our character Dave just wandering mindlessly in the field shows loneliness. The Shining used extreme long shots to survey ideas of isolation. We also used this in our opening in the character Dave to show that he is isolated from everyone else after what he did.
real. The second question we will be addressing in our evaluation is, how does our media products represent particular social groups? The lead character in our film opening is a male to appeal to our target audience. In the opening of our film, I played as the male lead character, and we feel as if this creates a better connection between the audience and the lead character, as it gives them a visual representation of someone in the social group that we're targeting. We've also targeted this social group by
using laddish behaviour.
Yeah, laddish behaviour.
As in a scene where the main character Dave picks up his phone, there's some text from his friends, and they have sort of text speak, text language, sort of laddish type behaviour. Leading on from that, we decided to make our lead character a teenager, again, which appeals to our target audience, and our actor Robbie is also a teenager, so that connection, visual representation. We used a social event, so like a party or something that teenagers might go to. Obviously there's drinks, alcohol, sort of things that teenagers would be wanting to, you know, drink.
Associate themselves with.
Yeah, associate themselves with. We did decide to represent the social group negatively. However, we think this will appeal to the target audience, as it something they may enjoy. It's like rebelling, that sort of thing.
Considering we haven't included women in our film opening, we could have done so by making them seem extremely attractive to the males, so we would gain more of a viewing from them, since stereotypically women are attractive to men, and that will generate viewers.
The third question we will be discussing in our evaluation is, what kind of media institution might distribute our media product and why? In this segment we will be talking about what channels will be hosting our film advertising, some of the channels that we think would suit our advertising are Channel 4 and Film 4. These are less popular channels, but the audience that is targeted through them is the audience that we wanted our film opening to target. This would be the young adults, the younger generations, above PG obviously, because psychological thrillers, horrors, they don't, the age certificate, they don't bode well, and also the age certificate for our film would probably be a little higher than that.
The specific ways that we would advertise on these channels would be mainly through teaser trailers and actual trailers. Also possibly giving away maybe tickets, maybe merchandise, and sometimes even deals to get the tickets for even a little bit cheaper than usual. The reason why we would use teasers and trailers is because we would be able to generate a bit of an audience before the film actually comes out. We'd also be able to generate hype, so people who aren't necessarily the specified target audience might get on the old hype train.
We believe vast amounts of the general public own and watch television regularly. It may not be our specific target audience, but a mainstream audience will also be good to appeal to, and they may even enjoy our film, this generating more popularity. Again, similar to social media, the reason they let us advertise on television is because we'd be paying to use their airtime.
Moving on, obviously you have horror channels and psychological thriller channels. Obviously we want to have our film advertised on these, as the audience matched up perfectly with what our style of film is, psychological thriller. Also with horror channels and psychological thriller channels, it's more of a niche kind of audience, you know, so we'd probably do a lot better if we were to advertise mainly on well, not mainly advertise, but advertise more on these types of channels.
Who would generate more popularity on their channels because of the niche audience.
Yeah. And finally, Netflix. Although Netflix isn't a channel as such, we'd like to advertise on there, as the audience is massive. Like, there's not really an age range to the Netflix audience, so advertising our film on there, we'd probably do fairly well, as this is a bigger film.
Yeah, it's becoming bigger, becoming more popular.
Yeah, so we feel we'd probably do quite well if we were to advertise on
there. Channels we'd not like to advertise on, obviously BBC, because they don't run adverts. ITV, we feel, whilst they do run adverts, I feel our film opening or film advertising and things wouldn't be appropriate for the age range that ITV sort of cater for. Maybe after like the Watershed times, we could play it then, because there might be more, niche audiences, older people, but predominantly the adverts are PG, and our film is not. Obviously, as Robbie was saying, horror channels, psychological thriller channels, we wouldn't want to advertise on anything other than them. So comedy, rom-com, anything like that, we wouldn't run them on there, because the audience on there would not be looking to watch a psychological thriller / horror film.
Other ways that we could be found advertising would be in the way of physical advertisements, so things like billboards, we've got flyers, and more niche things like posters and banners. We could also be using things like posters, banners to generate more income for us, as well as for the people who are creating them. We'll give them a share.
This also appeals to our niche audience.
Nowadays there is a lot of traffic towards social media from our targeted audience. Sharing our content can increase the popularity, and it also just gets it out there for people to see. Likes and comments on our content can help us get a better understanding or idea of how our film is being received by our targeted audience. The reason why we'd be allowed to advertise on certain social media sites is because our targeted audience is similar or the same as theirs. Also, we'd be paying to use certain advertising spots on certain sites. The fourth question we will be answering is, who would be the audience for our media product? The target audience for our media product was males, teenagers / adults from the age ranges of 16 to 30, with a sub-audience of psychological thriller enthusiasts. We chose this target audience as it was most relatable to us, and we also chose to target psychological thriller enthusiasts because it was a unique and niche audience.
The reason we decided to choose males is obviously we are all males, so it's the most relatable with us. We could, go along with it. And all of our production team was male, so again, we didn't really have an option, but it made it easier for us.
We chose teenagers once again. Most popular audience for modern films. Most people who are seen in theatres are mainly teenagers. We also have chosen this as it's the age group that has the most disposable income out of young people, teenage, and people who are older than teenage. We also aimed to advertise on social media, which will more likely attract people of the teenage group. We also chose psychological thriller enthusiasts because it was from a unique genre, once again an interesting genre, and a very niche audience to hopefully attract those people who find that genre interesting who aren't necessarily part of our target audience.
The fifth question we will be answering is, how did you attract / address our audience?
To attract our male audience, we depicted our lead character as a male to make sure it catches the eye of our audience, as well as keeping them entertained and related to the character.
The way we attracted teenagers to adults, which was our age range, was by obviously creating our lead character within the age bracket. Again, as we said previously, makes it more relatable. We believe we've included a storyline that includes quite a lot of action. Whilst it's got to maintain the psychological thriller conventions, we also believe it's got to be entertaining. One scene in particular where we've done this is we made a party scene with alcoholic beverages. Obviously it's a bit like a rebellion, as the young teenagers would be able to drink, not legally, but they're having a bit of fun.
Finally, to address our niche audience, that being the psychological thriller enthusiasts, we had to use traditional conventions. We started with dull and bright lighting. This gave contrast throughout the scenes, which would draw them in and give them hints as to what was actually going on. Secondly, we used eerie music and sound effects. The music just, again, drew them in, made sure that they were staying focused, and the sound effects just gave them a better idea of maybe where a character was placed or was. It just, once again, made sure that they were staying focused and aware of what was going on. What have we learned about technologies from the process of constructing our product?
The technology we used throughout our film opening consisted of the use of the camera. We believe we can now get effective shots with the camera. We believe we can position it effectively to get these shots. This in turn enabling us to capture a larger range of shot types than we ever could before in our preliminary task or before.
The second thing is the tripod and the heights of the shots we could get. This gave us a chance to switch up the angle throughout our film, or the process of creating our film opening. We could get high shots, low shots, which once again we can do in our preliminary task.
We also decided to continue to use the computer more so we can expand on our abilities from the prelim task. We learned how to use cuts and filters as well as edits efficiently, and we also got much better at transferring files from one device to the other, so from the SD card of the camera onto our computer for editing purposes.
Throughout our filming and editing, me and Robbie believe we learned a lot more than Connor, because Connor had already the skills and he taught us how to do some of the editing. He's going to explain some of them.
Yeah, so the main things that we used in our opening, things like Flash, Photoshop, also of course Premiere. Mainly Photoshop and Flash were used for the logo graphic, the production company graphic, and the animated logo. Yeah. Premiere, of course, everything else, all of the like editing that was done. Also did a lot of work in Audacity, which is a sound editing program which allows us to manipulate lots of different audio files, which is what we did, getting lots of different music. Also some of the sound effects like the wind that is constant throughout the opening except inside the house.
Looking back at our preliminary task, what do we feel we have learned in the progression to the full product? For our prelim task, we were told to film a mock police investigation. Within the filming of this, we had to include a range of shots, for example, over the shoulder shot and a reverse shot. We felt that there was something lacking while filming, for instance our organisation and continuity, and we felt this was because of the lack of focus that we had as a group throughout the filming of the prelim task.
Throughout our prelim task, we also felt that our camera shots were very poor and lacking. For example, our positioning may have showed something in the scene that we didn't want to, etc. However, in the final product, or the progression to the final product, as we said before, we learned how to use the camera more effectively, so our camera positioning was greatly improved, and the range of shots we used had a greater impact on the audience. For example, close-ups, facial expressions we could show, and the scene setting, so behind we could include a lot more things that would have an impact on the audience.
As well as this, simply editing in the end was improved so much more than before. We learned how to use Premiere better, which is the software that we use to edit. Our continuity was improved, so things like all of the costumes, objects, say they weren't in the wrong hand when they zoomed out. We were also being a lot more creative with our shots, so using extreme long shots, zooms and etc. It was also once again able to gain the ability to take new shots that weren't really seen before in our prelim task.